All right, in this video, I'm going to integrate a zip code prepopulator. If you ever take me for WebD 191, which is a portfolio class, you know I cover this there. The idea is to get developers to use their skills to increase usability. So this allows the user to never have to enter the city or state. And it's one of those things that you can talk about in a job interview. Some of you have already heard me go over this, but I'm going to go over it again real quick because I've implemented it in the custom cart just because it's cool. So I'm doing it on key up. So 92119 would be San Diego. And you see how fast the response time is? It's really good. So now if something's off, the user can just type in there, we'll be done. But that's, I think, a nice little thing to understand how it works, etc. So I use the Redline API for this. It's called zipcodeapi.com. And basically, when you click Start using the API, you're going to sign up. So when you sign up, it's free to use. You just have to register the application. So like my application was called Custom Cart, and my email's here, and I just registered it. Now, one thing you need to do is that when you go to your app management, what we need to do is log in with my key. So I'm going to show you how to grab that key. This is already obviously implemented my code, and I did my Mesa college email for this one. So now I'm in. Oops, I hope. Maybe not. Maybe no. Invalid application key. Maybe. That's interesting because it works. I just did it like a second ago. So let's see where. Oh, here it is right here. So I'm logged in. This is the API key. So you got to keep this handy. I used the actual client-side key. So anyway, a lot of people use this and they'll get what's called a CORS error, meaning the AJAX does not prepopulate. So what you need to do is add your client-side. So you add your domain name to this, and that will give you the client key. So you want to basically keep all these keys. I'll keep it in my code. I'll just add it to my comments here. And this will be app key, so for login. So I remember that where it is. So anyway, they give you quite a bit of, I think it's 200 pings in an hour. It's a lot for free. So once you have that, you can get the code, which I'm going to zip up and give you. But I worked with the code they give right here, which is jQuery, and I just made it match our checkout form. So let me go to the code real quick and I'll show you how it works. So what's cool is there's a zip code caching system in this too, where it'll cache your zip code, and then when you get back, it'll reuse it, which I really like because it gets cached in the browser. So basically, you add your client key here for the domain you're using. You find a container because we're going to use the find function in jQuery. And notice I put the latest version of jQuery above it. I get that from the jQuery CDN, which is in an earlier video. I basically Googled jQuery CDN like I always do, and I always forget, and I just grab it. And so that integrity will not be the same as yours when you go to it. So anyway, the container div is example 1. That means your container in the form needs to be ID example 1. You might remember from jQuery, the hashtag is how we find IDs. So right here, I have example 1 in my ID. Now, as we go down again, I have an error div 2, which container find div text error. So you would find a div with a class of text error. And I don't even think I have that, but I've actually commented out. Yeah, it's not even in there, but I have actually commented out my error handling on handler response because I've tested it, it works fine. So basically, what we're doing is setting up an event listener on each key. So if I hit refresh on our section here, every single time I type a key, 9, it's calling that single JSON feed. So once we do that and we do on blur, at that point, these values should come in. Now, right now, let's see what we got. We got probably an error here. Zip code rest not found. So if we do 92104, so that's not a zip code, and it works fine. So basically, on key up, every time we on key up or change, we'll run this function. So the zip code will equal that object, and the substring from 0 to 5. We're looking for the first 5 digits. Then we're going to test to see if the length is 5. And it's all numbers from 0 to 9, which we test on that value. We clear our error, which is, right now we have no error because I've actually removed that. And I check my cache. So I have a cache that equals an array up there, an empty object. And if that adds up, if the zip code's in there, I'll pass the zip code to the handle response, which is this thing right here. So that's the data that would come in. Anyway, otherwise, I call the URL, and my client key's right in there, and my zip code's right here. I grab the data of JSON from that URL, and once the done function completes, I have the data there, which I've logged, and then I can pass the data to the handle response function. This stores the cache. So if I have cache zip code and data, fail function, if data response text and JSON parse response text, then I can store it in JSON. Otherwise, there's an error here, which I probably should clean up, and then we trigger the change. Because actually, the cache functionality on here, it's not mandatory. It'll help because it'll load. So what we're saying is that only if there's data, we'll pass it into that data. So, and if it fails, we have a bunch of error handling. But it's pretty simple other than that. We're getting the values, calling the API, getting the values back, and cutting up that API. So if you want to see what else is in that div, here we'll do console.log data, and we'll upload it. And I think I already had it in here. Here it is right here. So here's the acceptable city names, which is an array, area codes, which is cool, lat longe, the time zone. The lat longe to me looks a little bit off, so be wary of that, because I know in San Diego we're at like, the lat is about 33 and the longe is minus 117. Got the time zone right though, so I'd have to figure out why the lat longe is off, but here it is. No, that's wrong. That is completely wrong as far as where we are. It could be the lat longe within San Diego, perhaps, but a number like this is probably near the prime meridian, the actual 0 degrees lat and 0 degrees longe, because it's pretty close to it. But anyway, I digress. The fact is, this is pretty accurate, it's pretty fast, and it's pretty usable. So it's in the custom cart. You don't have to do this if you're using OpenCart. You can try. All you have to do is go out to the checkout and try to implement it. But I do think it's worthwhile, and I do think you should have things like this in your portfolio as a talking point for when an employer asks you about what's special about your code.